great time, and General Rock did a nice job representing the Commandant, and this year I have the honor to represent the Commandant. Jim, thank you for the introduction. Sorry about the picture, ladies and gentlemen, but pleased to be here. I've looked around the room. There's many familiar faces, and I'm watching that table right there. I got you. Hey, thanks for the opportunity to speak with you today. This is a really impressive lineup, and looking at the agenda, it's almost like speed dating. So I have 25 minutes to speed date with you all this afternoon, and I intend to talk about three things briefly. I want to talk a little bit about some of our modernization efforts under the guise of force design. I want to talk about what your Marines are doing today very quickly. I want to talk about something I describe as how we are modernizing, how we modernize. You've heard a lot about that today, but I'm going to give you the Marine Corps version of that and what's going on across your Marine Corps, our Marine Corps, and I hope to do that in 10 to 15 minutes. Now, the bad news is I had this exact talk with the Secretary of the Navy today, and I nailed it in 60 minutes, so I got to either talk really fast or cut a bunch of stuff out. I will cut some stuff out, but something that's important to all of us, and we recognize, we've done some homework with this JSIDS reform and the new Joint Force Requirements process, is that we need to be in a better, more coherent conversation with our industry partners. So this is a great opportunity to do just that. I'm grateful to spend some time with you this afternoon. Force design and modernization. First thing I'll tell you is, as Marines, we've done this before. And I'm not going to give you a history lesson, don't worry, but I will tell you that in 1920 to 29, Commandant Lejeune changed the Marine Corps on the backside of a land war where he led an Army division, and we retooled to focus on amphibious warfare, and it mattered in World War II. And between World War II, Korea, and Vietnam, Keith McCutcheon went on to be a four-star, introduced rotary wing aviation to the Marine Corps in a meaningful capacity. In the late 80s, Al Gray, Commandant, introduced maneuver warfare, and fast forward to 2019 to now, Commandants Berger and Smith have hit another inflection point in our modernization, our adaptation, which is started as force design, and I would like to just describe it as necessary, responsible, and rapid modernization of our Marine Corps. So proud of what we're doing. We started in 2019, and we are implementing time now. As a matter of fact, Sergeant Major Seau, who's here with me, the lights are bright, he's in here somewhere, but and I just recently had the chance to visit all three Marine Expeditionary Forces and Marfor Res down in New Orleans and got to see some of these capabilities in action. I don't have a slide to put up there, but what I'd like to do is just talk about a couple things that are going on in the Marine Corps and give you a sense for what that looks like. But first, we got to say it, and I'm sure other speakers have said this today, but in the Marine Corps, we are adamant that we equip Marines. So before I talk about gear, we equip Marines, and then we do our best to fill out all the .mil-PF capabilities. We'd ask you as our industry partners to keep that in mind. We have to tackle that very carefully, mitigate risk, and then you get a capability in the hands of Marines, and it's always fascinating what comes back after the Marines get an opportunity to work with a piece of equipment. We understand that. So let's talk about what we have seen out there and get ready for some acronyms, ladies and gentlemen. Let's start with the Navy Marine Expeditionary Ship Interdiction System, Nemesis. As General Lozano was talking about, this is something that probably existed in 2018 on a bar napkin, in 2019 maybe on a PowerPoint slide. We have fielded these right now. As a matter of fact, I'll circle back in a little bit and talk about where we're seeing those out in the operating forces, and that is on two Naval Strike missiles mounted on top of an unmanned JLTV chassis, three unmanned vehicles assigned to a lead vehicle, lead follow, and it's also a system that we will be able to take that NSM off the top, replace it with an MLRS family of munitions kit, and fire the full MLRS family of munitions here in the reasonably near term. TPS-80 Gator. It's an amazing, capable radar, and it's proven its worth. It is deployed operationally in multiple theaters right now, and we're looking to pair it with, right now, what we are prototyping with a Marauder, which is a passive system, and the active-passive teamwork of those systems is spectacular, with many uses tied to ground, tied to aviation, tied to airspace, and tied to ATC. We can't get enough of those right now. Marine Unmanned Expeditionary Medium Altitude Long Endurance. Where's our GA friends? I saw them over here earlier. The MQ-9, but it's not, I hate to say it, it's not as much about the MQ-9 as it is about the payload. So we're really smitten with where we are. This is a capability that we hadn't invested in about 4 years ago. We have got 3 squadrons, 1 training squadron in Cherry Point, and 2 operational squadrons with some exquisite payloads tied to maritime domain awareness, tied to some comm relay. And I'll stop there, but it's some exquisite payloads. We've got 1 squadron operating in Kadena Air Force Base, Air Base in Okinawa, and 1 operating in the Philippines. And there is a strong borderline insatiable demand for what they produce in the area I just described. Ground-based air defense, we are fielding right now our first medium range, different than the Army medium range intercept capability. It is a Tamir-based system that uses our CAC2S software and a TPS-80 radar to first LAD in Hawaii, and we're going to get those out there as a tool that can counter cruise missiles and work as a point-in-a-point defense role. Counter UAS. We have a pretty diverse portfolio of counter UAS capabilities, and the special thing about everything that we're fielding, it is an open systems architecture and designed such that we can spirally improve it, and we need to move fast. We need to field faster. We've got the Marine Air Defense Integrated System, MADIS, which we have fielded operationally with 3rd Littoral Anti-Air Battalion out of Hawaii, and they are forward. We've got a lightweight version of MADIS, which has been fielded. The program of record system will be fielded this year. We've got urgent UN systems out. We've got what we call organic counter UAS with 84 prototypes out with Marines that's designed to protect dismounted Marines. Our ACE, the Deputy Commandant for Aviation, published the Commandant's plan, the Marine Corps' plan for modernizing our aviation combat element in Project Eagle back in January. We're about to be an all 5th gen TAC Air platform, which makes the Harrier pilot and me sad as we get out of Harrier here in June. No comments? Thank you. 53 kilo is the most, is an amazing, there's a Harrier pilot over there, I see him in the bright lights, all right. 53 kilo, which is the most capable heavy lift helicopter in the world, and the MV-22, which proves its worth every day, deployed. If you want a platform that can take off from an unprepared zone, fly a couple thousand miles behind a KC-130, and deliver lethality, logistics, you name it, into an unprepared zone, you're coming to one place. Unmanned. CCA, tied to our TAC Air, XQ-58. We're continuing to experiment and making a lot of progress with the Valkyrie as a tool for our TAC Air to help with lethality and self-protect. FPV drones, Marine Corps Attack Drone Team based out of Quantico, Virginia, which is paired with our team, our Drone Dominance Task Force, to rapidly field a high volume of first-person view drones as a part of our fires portfolio, and we are getting these things out to the fleet users rapidly. And it is providing an opportunity to learn about spectrum, about ranges, about handling, about TTPs. It's been a pretty exceptional team, and we just, in the wake of the OSW Gauntlet 1, it looks like we're going to get somewhere between 7,000 and 10,000 more drones to flood the zone with. We're turning those into a capability. Organic precision fires is a loitering munition. We are fielding time now. Loitering munitions to our infantry formations that are for dismounts and biasing towards a solution for a mounted solution. We're focused on logistics. A great example of going fast is the autonomous low-profile vessel that some of you know in this room very well. We have 3 prototypes that are out operating right now. We have got some ATFIT and DIU funding that we are going to start to scale those, and we're programming those to get those fielded as part of our logistics solution for contested logistics. It's think of a drug runner boat, 40-something feet long, with a decent amount of volume that it can carry 2 naval strike missiles or a similar payload and go a couple thousand miles. Advanced reconnaissance vehicle. Our ARV-30 test prototype vehicle was just swimming in the Del Mar Boat Basin recently. We are wrapping up competitive prototyping and move to a middle tier of acquisition program with 2 vendors and get to a down select here in a couple years. It's a great program, and I can talk more about that. Let me shift gears briefly and just mention amphibious warfare ships, because I need to. We are working hard to get to that balance of readiness. It's going to require service life extension, and it's going to require an increase in our inventory to get to the Commandant's North Star, what he's been directed to get to by Secretary of War and Secretary of the Navy, which is a continuous 3.0 ARG-MU, being one off the East Coast all the time, one West Coast with a persistent FDNF out of Japan. I would tell you that time now, because one of our MUs has been extended, another one is being hurried out the door, and the 31st MU in open press is right now sailing from Japan to CENTCOM. We're about to have 3 ARG-MUs out at once. It's episodic, though. It's not persistent. We're biasing towards a solution for that. It's very important to all of us. If you take a look at what the 22nd MU has done in their deployment down in Southcom, it's been spectacular. They really are that Swiss Army knife of capability. They've done HADR in Jamaica. They've done embassy reinforcement. They've helped with combat operations in Venezuela, and they are down there just keeping it calm time now with all that they bring to bear. Landing ship medium. This is a bad news story turned into a good news story, and I have not seen the industry, the department, the Hill, OpNav, and Marine Corps more aligned in a project. We are going to bend metal on the first article. It's going to be made by Bollinger. Then they're going to work through some other shipbuilding, some other shipbuilders, some other shipyards, and we're going to move out with LSM, and it is a necessary requirement to produce mobility and maneuver in the first island chain. We're late to need on that. The good news story is we're moving out on that. Let me talk about your Marines. I will tell you that we continue with some amazing recruiting efforts. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I would be sad if I didn't at least tell you that we continue to, without changing our standards, make, in the wake of a really tough 3 years in the recruiting context, we continue to make our recruiting goals and our retention goals. As a matter of fact, last month, every recruiting district and all 48 recruiting stations made their mission. If you know anything about Marine recruiters, there's a lot of people that did that at the end of last month. Global presence today, 41,000 Marines are either forward deployed or forward postured, 45 countries aboard ship at embassies, in some cases campaigning, in many cases fighting. So that's what your Marines are doing right now. Let me talk a little bit about some of the formations. I've talked 3rd Marine Littoral Regiment. Let's pull together what Marines are doing with some of these capabilities that I've talked about. 3rd Marine Littoral Regiment, just in Bala-Katan last year, deployed and exercised with a Nemesis, with the Naval Strike Missiles, and with a Mattis deployed to Batanes Island. If you know where Batanes Island is, halfway between northern Luzon and Taiwan, people are paying attention to that. Later on in the year, there's an exercise, Resolute Dragon, 12th Marine Littoral Regiment exercised in Yonaguni Island, or not Yonaguni, Ishigaki, a little bit northeast of Yonaguni, with the Nemesis and a TPS-80 radar down there, which we're doing things that we didn't used to do based on Xi Jinping being a great alliance builder in that theater. I talked about the MUs. I talked about the fact that we're about to have 3 MUs out concurrently, which is a big deal. In addition, we have got V-22s and Hercs deployed with Crisis Response AFRICOM. We have got MRF-D, Marine Rotational Forces Darwin, deploying time now. We've got Marines deployed to the Philippines and Marine Rotational Force Southeast Asia. 3 MEF is campaigning in the first island chain. 2 MEF is doing cold response and supporting SOUTHCOM. It's a busy time to be a Marine. It's a good time to be a Marine. Last, let me talk briefly about modernizing, how we modernize within the Marine Corps. And I know that's been a topic many of the speakers have talked about today, but what I will tell you is first, we've been looking at this for a couple of years, and we've been looking at this in an end-to-end scenario. How do we go faster given the nature of the Marine Corps, the size of the Marine Corps, the fact that many of us live in Quantico, Virginia, or in the NCR, and turn it up and go a little bit faster? Well, if you take that enterprise effort of what I define as the force development enterprise, and you have a conversation with industry partners, then you get gifted this blowing up JSIDs, and now we're going into the Joint Force Requirement process, and then we get gifted this PAE construct, which is another way to go fast and unmistakably pull this together, and we are taking a hard look at coordinated enterprise-wide modernization that's going to make us go faster. It's going to be different changes to our formations, it's going to be changes to our processes, and it's going to be changes to our C2 construct, changes to the authorities within which we handle our requirements, and changes to the authorities within which we resource our acquisition processes. And unlike Frank, who was up here before, said I think 120 days he'd been the PAE, 4 days. So don't ask any hard questions. But last Thursday, spent some time with ASNR-DNA and with Secretary of the Navy, and signed the acquisition decision memorandum that's designating me to be dual-hatted, which is pretty spectacular if you ask me. I'm not looking for more things to do, but the opportunity to bring this whole team together in a coherent fashion is pretty special. So if you think about it, we've got, in the Marine Corps Warfighting Lab, we've got futures, we've got S&T, we've got experimentation, we've got in our Capabilities Development Director, we've got requirements, we've got operations analysis, and that's all in the CD&I part of the equation, and that, for that purpose, I report direct to the Commandant of the Marine Corps. Break in my other part of my dual hat is the PAE Marine Corps, undergirded by the kludge of Marine Corps Systems Command and PEO Land Systems and all the programs that exist in there, and many of the authorities and many of the key players that will enable us to go fast with a change in the authorities that I just described. Reports direct to ASNR-DA and to the Secretary of the Navy. They've made that clear to me. But now we can pull all this together, and I think we're going to go fast. I think it's a tremendous opportunity, and one of the fundamentals I'd be happy to talk more about that we're using to underpin it is a horizontal alignment. We'll be vertically aligned, certainly, with all our higher headquarters and the joint staff and the JCAs and key operational problems. But the thing that I think is going to make us go faster is horizontal alignment along portfolios where I've got a post-command colonel who is in charge of a fires portfolio. And his job is not to have a lot of authority, unfortunately, but to have a lot of responsibility and understand what's going on in the S&T world, what's going on in the fielding world, and be able to pull that team together and treat that like an end-to-end solution, whereas in many cases, time now, we have small pockets of stovepipes, if you will. So I'm excited about that. I think that construct makes a tremendous amount of sense. It's not far off what from Frank Lozano talked about in his world, but applied on a different scale. That is for PAE Marine Corps. I'll make one more comment tied to that, and then we'll get ready to wrap it up and open for questions. But PAE Marine Corps is one of 10 PAEs within the Department of the Navy. The Marine Corps, in my CD&I role, will have dependencies, and I would argue 8 out of 10 of the PAEs. So we will also have linkages to PAE Maritime, to PAE Munitions, to PAE mission systems, you name it. So we're working through all of that right now. It is exciting. I will tell you, if you ask me where I am as a Deputy Commandant and a brand new PAE, I am happy but not satisfied. I'm happy for the opportunity. I'm happy that I have a great team and they're doing great work. I'm struggling to keep up with my predecessor over there, and he set the bar very high for me, Hazel Heckel, but and not satisfied because we have to go faster, ladies and gentlemen. We have to accelerate. We have to scale. We have to get these capabilities that we're implementing based on the Force Design Vision 2030. We need to get it fielded faster. We need to get capabilities in the hands of Marines, and we need to get our munitions stockpiles, get our magazine depth up, and that's been stated by previous speakers as well. It's exciting times to be in the Marine Corps. It's exciting times to implement force design. We are rapidly and responsibly modernizing the Marine Corps and concurrently modernizing how we modernize. So I'm grateful for your partnership from our industry partners. I'm grateful for your time today. I got 9 minutes left, according to the big clock right here. I'd like to open it up for questions, please.
So I know we've got some mics that are positioned, but thanks, sir. That's an incredible rundown.
Applause already.
Yeah. You got a lot done in that.
All right.
Hey, I know there's mics out there. We'll go right into questions. There's one right here on the front row, and then we'll just maneuver around.
I'll try one without a mic, sir. Thank you so much for your presentation. Forgive me for what's probably a pedestrian question.
It's okay.
But as PE Marine Corps, you'll have responsibility for both MCCDC and SysCom?
Absolutely. So right now I am, right now I'm all three, to be honest, but Deputy Commandant for CD&I and CG McCidic. And I've been doing that since I got in the seat 19 months ago. But we're going to add a separate piece, which is the PAE Marine Corps.
Awesome. And a follow-on question, can you comment on the importance of McWill or how McWill operates in terms of introduction of new technology?
That's a great question. And, you know, McWill, when I was growing up, was dealing with squad tactics and robot dogs and playing small ball, to be very honest. Today, they are influencing the future of the Marine Corps. They're leading a lot of the joint force efforts tied to how we fight, tied to, some of our C2 solutions, some of our exquisite solutions. We've had a 450% increase in the classified programs that we deal with in the United States Marine Corps from an operational perspective. They are an institutional game changer, to be very honest. And one of the things that we're looking at in our modernization working group is to further define and lay out and make sure that they are properly structured to support the role that they're playing today, because there's been a lot of unnatural acts to do what they're doing right now with a formation that's kind of, morphed like many formations do. But since Force Design, and probably before that, but most notably since 2019, they really have stepped up their game in a tremendously impactful way. So they own concepts. 2 weeks ago, Commandant signed out a capstone concept. First to fight, sounds familiar, right? But it's a retooled. They own S&T. They own our service level experimentation. They own wargaming, and I can come back and talk about the Neller Center if anyone wants to talk about that. That's going to be pretty special as we include mod, sim, wargaming, and artificial intelligence. And so they play a big role. They really are the campaign of learning team that then gives what they're learning to us to set requirements and then on down. It's not linear, though, is it? It's more iterative. Thanks for the question.
Hey, sorry, we'll go straight up the middle to Sam, the question in the middle, then over to the gentleman to the right side.
Mic check. There we go. David Hutchins with Forecast International and prior service Marine. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your time. Right. My question is about counter-UAS systems. Wondering if you can go into a little bit more detail on what sort of CUAS systems the Marines are using or will be using in the future, and just probably provide a little bit more detail on what those systems are, if you can, and what you're most excited to see in the field for our future Marines. Thank you.
So I'm excited that we have programmatic solutions for a number of systems, and thanks for that question. It's tremendously important. You know, not only do I love all of my Marines, and I see the risk that we're taking time now in theater and elsewhere, but I got 2 boys, and guess what? They're both Marines. This is important stuff. We have got installation counter-UAS. We fielded the first 7 of those systems. We're going to round out to 35 installations. That's a fixed base, you know, detect, identify, and defeat. We have got a relocatable fixed site capability called Home Alone. That is a similar construct, but it's something we will move along with us. We've got the MADIS. I talked about that earlier, which is a Mark I and Mark II, 2 vehicles with on a JLTV, mounted on JLTVs that have got the ability to tie into the aviation command and control system, that have got kinetic defeat in terms of right now it's Stinger and 30 millimeter. We're looking at other kinetic defeat capabilities, and they've got non-kinetic defeat capabilities and radar. We've got the lightweight Mattis, which is on a ULTV, an ultralight tactical vehicle frame, fits in an MV-22 or a CH-53, and is also deployed with the Marine Expeditionary Unit right now. And we've got what we call organic counter-UAS, which is looking at, this is the piece I said, we're fielding prototypes and trying to scale those for dismounted Marines. And it's not for infantry Marines necessarily, it's for whatever that Marine is that needs that protection from a UAS threat. And I think that rounds out the portfolio of time now. Those are all programs, and those are all set such that we can spirally improve them. This is much like the counter-IED fight of 10 or 15 years ago, only more complex and more important. Maybe not more important, but pretty darn important. Thank you for the question. Hurrah.
All right, sir, to your right.
Hey, Smash.
Uh-oh.
Hey, Carson Eckel, Jay Green. Hey, just real quick, I want to jump off on your comment about the Muse down in Southcom. Everybody knows the 2TV was down in Southcom and pretty much performed an amazing array of missions, everything from HADR, humanitarian assistance, disaster relief in Jamaica, to supporting operations in Venezuela and narco vessel interdiction as well. So unlike the failures of myself on active duty, what happens when we catch the bus and we're back to a 3.0 heel-to-toe MU presence around the globe, which I think is absolutely going to happen because we're, as you said it, Banshee and 2.2 MU's being extended, right? And the next one's being hurried out the door. So when we catch the bus, again, the failures of my peer group. And what I mean by that is readiness, you know, to source the MUs, personnel force structure to source the MUs, and the one that really pisses me off are the SPMAGTAFs, right? So special purpose MAGTAFs are scattered all over the globe. And then I look at the AV plan and I see cuts to Bs, right? So the centerpiece to any MU going out is going to be the ACE predominantly and primarily those F-35 stealth fighters. I just want to, I'm looking for reassurance from you, brother, that we're going to think through these things and that when we catch the bus, we're not caught flat-footed again and looking at the Navy going, sorry, we don't have the stuff to source the MUs properly.
You know, I've been talking about catching the bus mostly tied to me becoming the PAE, but thank you for switching the discussion on that. But hey, Hazel, and he was my predecessor and a dear friend, but thank you for bringing that up. First thing, in terms of procurement, with the multi-ship procurement that you helped get over the finish line, we're doing well. We have to continue to focus on that, create that stable, buy rate for big decks primarily. That's the pacing factor, and for the LPDs on the centers that allow us to get to the number, which we're still defining. I will tell you, we are working closely. Don, OpNav, was PO ships, now PAE Maritime, and the fleet and FMF. In a really meaningful way right now to solve that. And it involves service life extensions of LHAs and LPDs. It involves improvement of our readiness, maybe a different look at OFRP, and it involves the inventory to sustain that to get there. But that's the blue side of that. We often get the question about the green side, and it's a great question, and thank you for asking that. We do have the capacity to source the MUs. When the force sizing construct, when we got into force design, was we've got 3 MUs on the West Coast to rotate through, 3 MUs on the East Coast to rotate through, and the FDNF MU forward. So 7 MUs to produce that 3 to make 1 on a 2-to-1 depth to dwell, unless you're in Japan, which we've been doing that for a long time. It will require hard decisions because in the room that's been created by not having the ARG shipping to enable the heel-to-toe MUs, we've picked up some other tasks. And some of them aren't going away. The V-22s in Africa, that makes that continent small. That's an important capability. That's probably not going to go away, so we're taking a look at that. But I am confident, and the Commandant has told us with clarity that we will source the MUs, and we have the GFM solution. Two more quick points. One, we absolutely have maintained the F-35B inventory to source the MUs. That's step one. The C inventory that we tweaked is simply to provide us a little bit of a different capability in the reserves and some in the active. But step one is make sure we got the capability in the active component, and the VMFA 122 will deploy as a whole squadron with the 11th MU here soon. So we're doing it. I had one more point, but I'm getting old and I lost it. So thanks for that question. Hopefully that helps.
Right over here to the right, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. Drew Lawrence with Defense Scoop. Two topics for you. You talked about the 31st MU. It's headed to CENTCOM. Where does that put the Marine Corps' ability to quickly respond in the Pacific, specifically in the 7th Fleet AOR, should it need to? And is there a MU replacing the 31st responsibilities there? Second topic, the Strait of Hormuz is contested, and I understand you might not be able to get into specifics there. But since the 31st MU is headed to CENTCOM, what does it bring to that issue if it's needed in the Strait or elsewhere in CENTCOM?
So, Drew, thanks for the question. So, open press reporting, I'm careful with that. 31st MU has been reported to be heading to CENTCOM. I can agree with that. The 11th MU will deploy soon. It's going to be up to our Secretary of Defense, our Secretary of War. It's going to be up to the theater commanders to figure out what role that plays, whether that relieves 31st MU, whether that goes into the Western Pacific or not. But we've got a scarcity of resources in that theater right now. We're making the most of it. But that said, as a recent alumni of 3MEF and 1st Marine Aircraft Wing, there's still a whole lot of Marine Corps that is campaigning out in the Philippines, in Japan, and in Australia. Not maybe aboard the 31st MU time now. We do have a single ship deployer that's out there right now. But so we have capacity out there. We have allies and partners. So I'm comfortable with that. I'd be more comfortable with the MU sailing around the South China Sea. But it is what it is. The MU is a Swiss Army knife of capability, and they train for all of those missions. I would just tell you that they can do maritime interdiction, they can do amphibious assault, they've got an exquisite fires portfolio, they've got assault support, they can move people around the theater, they've got an amazing and impressive medical capability. It's a Swiss Army knife, and I'm going to leave it there because I think it turned red and I'm getting the look, but hopefully that's somewhat helpful, Drew.
No, sir.
That's not yellow.
You always have time in mind.
Okay.
No, if there's one or two more last questions, Mr. Duffy's back there, he's ready to go, but remember, we have 5 minutes between you two. We're going to do a hot mic exchange. So if there are more questions, feel free to take more questions.
I'll lead it up.
Well, Jim, your favorite question is, what keeps you up at night right now? And if you had $1 more, where would you put it?
But I also heard, if not incorrect, I also heard, sir, that you're the PAE for the Marine Corps now for all
Correct.
acquisition.
Just for the Marine Corps ground portfolio, but yes.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it makes me want to stand a little closer to you, sir.
Come on.
Are there any, obviously you're going to want to make a big impact over the next year. What are the big couple of things that you think might come to your desk where you'd want to make some stamp on your?
You know, the biggest thing I want to do is make some hard decisions about what we need to scale and how to scale faster, field the right capabilities faster. The Commandant has told me lethality, logistics, and closed kill webs.
Lethality, logistics, and close kill webs.
Yep. So that's where we're focused, and I know where I was going to go with Hazel in a second. I'll come back to that in just a second. To structure. Those are the things that keep me up at night. Actually, the thing that keeps me up at night is not knowing what I'm not doing to make my team successful, to be very honest. If I was given another $1 today, I'd spend it on counter UAS to protect our Marines that are forward. And Hazel, the point I was going to make too is one of the things we're doing time now is taking a look at a small end strength growth and what we would do with it. I've got a pretty amazing team that's doing that in Quantico as we stand here right now to figure out how we would best purpose that against some really hard requirements. We're talking about 7,000 or 8,000 pieces of structure. They've so far come up with 16,000 really valid requirements for that structure. That will involve hard decisions, but we're going to continue to fill gaps, burn down risk, and mature the force and modernize.
Yes, sir. You got the last word, sir.
Sorry for talking so fast. Proud to spend a couple of minutes with you all this evening, this afternoon. Thank you for your partnership. Have a wonderful afternoon.
It was perfect, sir.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.